Chosen one, stop. Don't scroll past this. Not today. Because today is not the same as yesterday. And somewhere in your chest right now you already know that. You woke up this morning carrying something you cannot name. Not sadness, not anxiety. Something underneath both of those things. A pressure behind your ribs that arrived without warning and hasn't left. You went through your morning routine coffee, maybe a prayer, maybe just silence, and the whole time, something in you kept whispering, something is about to change. You're not imagining it. Here is the truth nobody in your life is saying out loud. You have been strong for too long. You have been holding it together for people who never once asked how much it costs you. You have been showing up, smiling, functioning while something deep inside you has been quietly coming apart and quietly coming alive at the same time. And you are exhausted from pretending those two things aren't both happening simultaneously. You're tired of acting normal while something sacred is shifting inside you. You are weary bone, weary of carrying a weight you cannot explain to your own family. This is not a breakdown. This is a threshold. April 4th, 2026 is not significant because a calendar moved. It's not numerology. It's not superstition. It is significant because of who you are today compared to who you were 12 months ago. You have been refined, pressed, stripped of things that felt like losses but were actually preparations. Think of the moment before a courtroom verdict is read. That hush, that stillness, the air doesn't move. Everyone in the room knows something irreversible is about to happen. That is where you are standing right now. The sealed envelope of your life, everything heaven has been holding back until you were ready to carry it. That seal is breaking today. Not tomorrow, today. So I need to ask you directly, why does this day feel heavier than usual? Why now? What exactly changes today? Stay with me, because in a few minutes, I'm going to show you the one sign that proves this moment is not random. If your spirit confirms that today is not ordinary, type, I'm paying attention. The recognition, why you felt strange lately. Let me ask you something personal. And I need you to answer honestly, not out loud, but in that place inside you where you don't perform for anyone. When was the last time you felt fully rested? Not just physically, rested in your soul. Rested in the place that no mattress, no vacation, no long weekend has been able to reach lately. Because you have been tired in a way that sleep does not fix. You close your eyes at night and you wake up carrying the same weight you went to bed with. 8 hours of sleep and you rise feeling like you never left. And you have told yourself it's age. You've told yourself it's stress. You've told yourself it will pass. But it hasn't passed. And somewhere underneath the explanations, you know this tiredness has a different address than your body. Something else has been happening too. The noise that never used to bother you, it bothers you now. The small talk that you used to navigate without thinking, it drains you in minutes. The conversations that go nowhere, the gatherings that feel hollow, the connections that once felt comfortable now feel like wearing a coat 3 sizes too small in a room with no air. You have been pulling away, quietly, without fully understanding why, and you have felt guilty about it. But chosen one, what if that pulling away was not selfishness? What if it was discernment? What if your spirit was simply refusing to spend energy it no longer had on things it no longer recognized as necessary? Elijah was one of the most powerful prophets who ever walked the earth. He called down fire from heaven. He outran chariots. He stood alone against 450 false prophets and did not flinch. And then he collapsed under a broom tree and told God he was done. Not because he was weak, because the old container had been pushed past its limit, and God's response was not a rebuke. It was bread, it was water, it was rest, and then a still small voice that said the journey is too great for you. You are not losing your edge. You are losing your attachment to a version of yourself that can no longer hold what God is forming inside you. That is a completely different thing. David did not write his most powerful psalms from a palace. He wrote them from caves, hidden, misunderstood, running from the very people who should have celebrated him. And in those caves, Something was being carved into his character that comfort could never have produced. Esther spent an entire season of her life not knowing why she was where she was. Positioned, waiting, given no explanation. The disclosure of her purpose came only when the moment was ready to receive it, not a day early, not a day late. Anna waited in the temple for decades. Decades, widowed, quietly faithful. The world had no category for what she was doing. But heaven had been counting every single morning she showed up. Joseph sat in silence for years while his dreams collected dust and his brothers slept comfortably. Do you see the pattern? Every single one of them went through a season that looked, from the outside, like stagnation, like loss. Like God had gone quiet and moved on to someone more qualified. But the silence was never absence. It was construction. Now let me ask you the question that changes everything. If what you are feeling right now is not punishment, then what is it preparing you for? Because here is what I know about the friction you have been living inside. Old wineskins cannot hold new wine. Jesus said it plainly in Matthew 9:17. You cannot pour something new and living and expansive into a container that was built for a smaller life. And when new wine presses against old skin, it tears, it stretches, it causes discomfort that feels, from the inside, exactly like breaking. But it is not breaking, it is expanding. The furniture of your soul is being moved, and anyone who has ever rearranged a home knows the middle of that process looks like chaos. Things out of place, nothing where it used to be. The room feeling foreign in a house you have lived in for years. That foreignness you feel in your own life right now, that aching sense that the old routines no longer fit, that the old relationships have changed shape, that even the person you see in the mirror seems to be someone in between one version and another. That is not fading. That is the winter ground cracking open because something is rising from underneath it. The discomfort is not proof that God left. It is proof that God is moving you, and you cannot be moved and stay still at the same time. So let me leave you with this before we go any further. You thought you were losing yourself. What if you were finally being found? If the old version of you no longer fits, if you feel in your bones that something is shifting beneath the surface of your life, right, I feel the shift. Because what comes next is going to explain exactly what that shift is building toward. And once you hear it, the strange season you have been living in will never look the same again. I need to say something to you that no one in your life has had the courage to say. Those years you called wasted, they were not wasted. Those doors that closed in your face, they were not accidents. Those prayers that seemed to dissolve into silence, they were not ignored. Every single thing you endured, every season you barely survived, every night you cried into a pillow so no one could hear you. Heaven had a name for all of it, and that name was never punishment. That name was never abandonment. That name was construction. Let me take you back. Think about the years you watched everyone around you move forward while you stood still. Friends got promoted. Family members celebrated milestones. And you kept showing up, kept believing, kept doing everything right, and nothing moved, nothing opened, nothing changed. You started asking the question no one wants to admit they're asking. God, did you forget me? You buried dreams so deep, you stopped visiting the graves. You made peace with versions of your life that were smaller than what you once believed was possible. You learned how to answer, I'm fine, with such convincing precision that even the people who love you stopped looking deeper. And somewhere in the silence, you accepted a verdict about your life that was never true. You decided the delay meant denial. But chosen one, I am here today to overturn that verdict. Because here is what the Bible shows us, not as poetry, not as comfort, but as pattern. Joseph didn't stumble into leadership. He was constructed for it. 13 years in a pit and a prison, 13 years of false accusations, forgotten promises, and zero visible progress. And every single one of those years was load-bearing. The patience he built in the pit, he needed it in the palace. The discernment he developed in the prison, it saved a nation. You cannot manufacture in comfort what God constructs in pressure. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he stood before Pharaoh. 40 years. The man who would part the Red Sea spent 4 decades learning silence, learning obscurity, learning how to lead sheep before he led a people. The wilderness wasn't the interruption of his calling. It was the classroom his calling required. Abraham and Sarah waited 25 years for a single promise to manifest. 25 years of unanswered questions. 25 years of explaining to neighbors why the nursery was still empty. And yet when Isaac came, they were not the same people who received the promise. They were people who had been hollowed out by waiting and filled back up with something that cannot be shaken. David was anointed king as a teenager, and then he spent years running for his life, hiding in caves, misunderstood by his family, hunted by the very institution he would one day lead. Heaven anointed him early, and then spent years building the interior architecture that the throne required. Do you see the pattern? God never delays the person. He constructs the person for what the promise requires. Now let me ask you something that I need you to sit with. What if the years that broke your heart were not random rubble but structural work? What if the loneliness built your discernment? What if the rejection built your freedom from needing applause? What if the financial pressure built your dependence on something that cannot be taken from you? What if the silence built the kind of hearing that loud seasons never could? Think of a skyscraper in New York City. You walk past a construction site for months and see nothing but a hole in the ground. Dirt, concrete, steel going down, not up. It looks like nothing is happening. It looks like the project stalled, but underground, invisible to every person walking by, they are laying pillars that will one day hold up 40 stories. You were the skyscraper, and God was driving the pillars deep. The hidden tears were not weakness, they were water pressure, driving roots deeper than comfort ever could. The seasons no one applauded you, they were forging something in you that applause would have corrupted. The losses that felt like they were taking everything, they were removing what could not survive, what is coming next. Chosen one, hear me clearly. Nothing in your life was random rubble. It was all structural work. And the reason today, April 4th, 2026 feels different from every other day is because the construction phase is ending. The pillars are set, the foundation is poured, and heaven is about to build upward in your life at a speed that will make the waiting make sense in a way no explanation ever could. The building is about to rise, and you, the one who endured the invisible years, you are about to see why every single one of them was necessary. If you can see now even partially that what hurt you was also forming you, type in the comments, "He was building me." Because what comes next in this message is the part that answers the question you have been carrying longer than any other. If those years were construction, what kind of life were they building you to carry? Stay with me. You are about to find out. Let me tell you something the world never taught you. There are 2 kinds of time. There is clock time, the kind that moves in straight lines, Monday to Tuesday, March to April. The kind that fills calendars and runs out of batteries and doesn't care whether you're ready or not. Clock time is indifferent. It has no memory of your prayers and no awareness of your pain. And then there is appointed time. The ancient Greeks called it kairos, not the hour on the wall, the hour written into the fabric of your story before you were born. The moment when everything that has been forming in the invisible finally breaks through into the visible. Not because a number on a calendar commanded it, but because truth, readiness, and divine timing have finally converged in the same place at the same moment, in the same person, in you. April 4th, 2026 is not significant because the numbers are magical. I am not standing here telling you to count digits or decode dates. I am telling you something far more serious than that. This day is significant because of what is happening inside you right now, and you already feel it. Some days are ordinary by the clock and decisive by heaven. Every person who has ever walked through a genuine turning point in their life will tell you the same thing. They didn't see it coming on a Tuesday. They just knew. Something in the air was different. Something in the chest was different. The ordinary world kept moving around them, and they were standing perfectly still inside a moment that felt like it had weight. That is where you are right now. So let me ask you something direct. Something I need you to sit with before you answer. What has been buried inside you that is starting to call your name again? Not your ambitions, not your goals. Something deeper. A knowing you set aside because life got loud. A direction you abandoned because the cost looked too high. A version of yourself you quietly grieved because you convinced yourself the window had closed. What if the window didn't close? What if it was simply waiting? Here is what happens on a day like this. What was hidden becomes undeniable. You can feel it already. The thing you've been managing, suppressing, explaining away, it stops cooperating. It rises, not violently, but with a quiet, immovable insistence that says, not anymore. What was tolerated becomes unbearable. The compromise you made with your own potential. The silence you kept to keep the peace. The smaller life you accepted because someone once told you that's all there was for someone like you. Today, that toleration breaks. And you know it. What was delayed begins to move. Think of a river at flood stage, held back by a dam. The pressure builds for months, and then one morning the dam shifts, and what was held becomes unstoppable. That is your life right now. The Bible is full of people who stood on days exactly like this one. Esther stood in a corridor outside a king's court, knowing that one step forward could cost her everything. And Mordecai said to her, "Who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Not for any other time. This time. This specific, terrifying, irreversible moment." Jesus, the night everything changed, looked at his disciples and said simply, "My hour has come. Not someday, not eventually. Now." Joshua stood at the edge of the Jordan River with 2 million people behind him. The water was at flood stage. There was no bridge. There was no boat. And God said, "When the soles of your feet touch the water, it will part." Not before. When? Elijah heard rain before a single cloud appeared in the sky. He told his servant, "Go look toward the sea." 6 times the servant came back and said nothing. On the 7th time he said, "There is a cloud the size of a man's hand." And Elijah said, "Go tell Ahab, prepare your chariot, because the rain is already here." You are standing in that moment right now. The cloud is the size of a man's hand. Most people around you cannot see it, but you feel it. And that feeling is not anxiety. That feeling is spiritual accuracy. Here is the truth that changes everything. The day does not change you. You change the day. April 4th, 2026 becomes a hinge day, not because heaven forced it, but because the person standing inside this day finally says yes to what God has been revealing. The door has been unlocked for longer than you know. Today is the day the key turns. So I need to ask you something before we go any further. If you sense in your spirit that today is not just another Saturday, that something in you is standing at a threshold you cannot step back from, type, "Today is a hinge." Because what I am about to show you next is the one thing that has been keeping that door from opening all this time, and it has nothing to do with your circumstances. It has everything to do with what you have been told about yourself. Now I need to slow down, because what I'm about to say, I need you to feel it, not just hear it. I need you to let it land in the place you don't show anyone. You have been carrying something for a very long time. And I don't mean weeks. I don't mean months. I mean years, decades. The kind of weight that settles so deep into your bones that you stop noticing it was there, until a quiet moment like this one reminds you that you are tired. Profoundly, completely tired. Not lazy, not defeated. Tired the way a person gets tired when they have been strong for everyone else, and strong for God, and strong for the family, and strong for the church. And no one, not once, thought to ask if you were okay. You carried a house full of people on a back that was already hurting. You sat at bedsides. You wrote the checks. You made the phone calls. You showed up at the funerals and held everyone else together, while something inside you was quietly fracturing. And when the room finally emptied, when the last person left and the door closed, you stood there in the silence and felt something you didn't have a name for. Not grief exactly, something lonelier than grief. The feeling of a lamp still burning in an empty sanctuary, still lit, still giving light, but wondering in that sacred, aching honesty if anyone still needs what you carry. Let me name what you have never said out loud. You lost someone, a spouse, a friend whose voice you still reach for in ordinary moments. And the world moved on with a speed that felt indecent, like the universe didn't understand what it had just taken from you. Maybe your children drifted, and you replay the distance like a song you can't stop hearing, wondering what you did, what you missed, what you should have said differently. Maybe your body, this body that carried children and built homes and kneeled in prayer 10,000 times, has started to betray you in ways that feel humiliating. And nobody tells you how much grief lives in that. How quietly devastating it is to need help with things you used to do without thinking. Maybe you sat in a church pew for 40 years and gave everything, your time, your money, your trust, and someone in that building wounded you in a way that still hasn't healed. And now worship feels complicated, and you don't know how to explain that to people who weren't there. And maybe the wound that cuts deepest of all is not any single loss. It is the question those losses planted inside you, the question you have whispered to God in the dark, in rooms no one else has ever entered. Was I forgotten? Did I miss my time? Am I still useful? Does my life still carry assignment? That question, that one right there, that is the wound beneath all the other wounds. And I need you to hear me say this with everything I have. You are not the first chosen one to ask it. Naomi lost her husband, lost both her sons, returned home empty, told people to call her bitter because she believed God's hand had turned against her. She was wrong. The redemption was already walking beside her. Her name was Ruth, and Naomi could not see it because grief had narrowed her vision to the wound. Anna, 84 years old, a widow most of her life, living in the temple, fasting, praying, waiting while an entire generation around her assumed her season was finished. And then one morning, a young couple walked in, carrying an infant, and Anna was the one God chose to recognize him. Not the young, not the powerful, the old woman who never stopped burning. Job lost everything in a single day: his health, his children, his dignity, and his friends, the ones who should have known better, sat across from him and told him the suffering must be his fault. And Job looked at heaven and said what most of us are afraid to say: I need an answer. And God did not rebuke him for asking. God showed up. The woman with the issue of blood spent 12 years bleeding. 12 years broke, isolated, told by religious law that she was unclean, untouchable. She pushed through a crowd, weak, desperate, barely standing, and reached out one trembling hand. And Jesus stopped. In the middle of everything, he stopped for her. Peter, who failed so publicly that he wept alone by the water, convinced his assignment was over. And Jesus came back, not to the temple, not to the crowds, to the water, to the fishermen who thought he was finished. Do you see the pattern? Every single one of them thought their wound was the end of their story. Every single one of them was wrong. Because here is the truth that changes everything. The thing that almost broke you is the very place where your authority was forged. The wound was not just pain. The wound was preparation. And the depth of what you suffered is the exact measurement of the authority you are about to carry. You did not survive all of that by accident. If you have ever asked God in private, in the dark, in the silence, in the moments nobody saw, did I miss my time? Type, I'm still here. Because what I'm about to show you next will prove that your time has not passed. It has been waiting for you to be ready to hold it. Let me tell you what the world has been lying to you about. The world told you that your best days are behind you, that your season of significance quietly ended somewhere between your last promotion and your first prescription. that the young have the energy, the platform, the future, and you have the rocking chair and the memories. And if you have been sitting with that lie long enough, part of you started to believe it. That stops today, because here is the truth, that the world is not qualified to tell you only heaven is. You were not built for retirement, you were built for deployment. The culture worships novelty. Heaven trusts tested vessels. And there is a difference between something new and something proven. A bridge is not built from fresh timber. A bridge is built from wood that has been pressed, dried and hardened by years of bearing weight. You are not fragile grass blowing in the first wind. You are an old oak roots, so deep the storms that knocked younger trees sideways never once took you down. That is not weakness. That is weight-bearing capacity. And heaven needs it right now. Open your Bible and look at who God chose when the assignment was heavy enough to matter. Moses was 80 years old when God handed him the most consequential mission in the history of a nation. 80. Not 22, with fire in his eyes and energy to burn. 80 with a staff, a stutter, and a past he wasn't proud of. And God looked at all of that and said, "You're the one." Sarah was 90 years old when her body became the vessel for a promise that would rewrite the bloodline of eternity. 90. Past every human definition of possibility. And God smiled at the impossibility and said, "Watch this." Abraham was 100. Caleb was 85 and stood before Joshua saying, "Give me this mountain, not give me rest, not give me comfort. Give me the hardest assignment left on the map." Anna was 84 years old, stationed in the temple, fasting and praying, and she was the one God chose to recognize the Messiah when he arrived as an infant, not the young priests, not the theological scholars in their prime. Anna, 84 years of faithfulness, walking through one door and recognizing what no one else in the room could see. And John, exiled on the island of Patmos in his later years, stripped of everything, isolated by empire, received the most expansive prophetic vision ever recorded in the history of Scripture. Do you see the pattern? God did not use these people in spite of their age. He used them because of it. Because the assignment required someone who had already been broken and rebuilt. Someone who had already lost something and kept believing. Someone whose faith was not theoretical, it had been tested in the fire, and it held. That someone is you. Your wrinkles are not evidence of irrelevance. They are the topography of a life that kept going when lesser people stopped. Your slowness is not emptiness. It is the deliberate pace of someone who has learned that rushing in the wrong direction is worse than standing still. Your grief did not erase your calling. It deepened it. It gave you access to rooms of the human heart that untouched people cannot enter. And your age, the very thing the world uses to dismiss you, has not weakened your assignment. It has seasoned it. There is a reason late harvest fruit is sweeter than early bloom. The sugars develop under pressure. The flavor deepens through time. You are not a disposable cup that served its purpose and gets tossed. You are a seasoned vessel, the kind that carries what the new ones would spill. So let me ask you the question that should be living in your spirit from this moment forward. If age qualifies you, and it does, then what exactly are you now qualified to do? What room can you walk into that a 25-year-old cannot? What wound can you speak to that only someone who has survived it can address? What generation is waiting right now for someone who has been through the fire and still has something to say? They are waiting for you. Heaven is not embarrassed by your age. Heaven is not scrambling to find someone younger to replace you. Heaven may have entrusted you with later years precisely because later years can carry heavier glory. The weight of what is coming requires someone with the foundation you have spent decades building. You are not at the end of the story. You are at the chapter the whole book was building toward. And if you are done, truly done, apologizing for the years God gave you, done shrinking in rooms where you were the most qualified person present, done treating your survival like it was something to be embarrassed about, type, "Use me now," because what heaven is about to place in your hands requires exactly the person you have become. And what it requires next is something even deeper, the truth about what you have been carrying all these years without knowing its name. Now, I need you to lean in close, because what I am about to tell you is not inspiration. It is not encouragement. It is not the kind of thing you hear on a Sunday morning and forget by Tuesday afternoon. What I am about to tell you is the reason you have never fully fit anywhere. The reason certain rooms drain you the moment you walk in. The reason you feel things in conversations that nobody else in the room seems to notice. The reason you have spent decades carrying a knowing you could never quite put into words and watching people look at you like you were too much, too deep, too intense. You were never too much. You were simply operating with an assignment that nobody around you had the language to recognize. And today, April 4th, 2026, that assignment is getting its name, spoken out loud, for the first time, in full. Jeremiah tried to disqualify himself. He said, "I am only a child. I do not know how to speak." And God looked at him and said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Not after you figured yourself out. Not after you cleaned yourself up. Before. The assignment existed before the person knew they were carrying it. That is your story too. The first identity being activated in you today is the seer. You have always perceived things before they were visible. You walk into a room and you feel the tension before a single word is spoken. You sense when someone is lying, even when their words sound perfectly reasonable. You know when something is wrong in your family 3 weeks before anyone else admits it. And for your entire life, people have called that paranoia, oversensitivity, imagination. Ezekiel was shown things no human eye was designed to process. Visions so overwhelming, he fell face down on the ground. And God looked at him and said, "Son of man, stand up. I need to speak to you." The seer does not fall apart under the weight of what they perceive. The seer learns to stand inside it. That is what is activating in you right now. The second identity is the carrier of truth. You cannot fake peace. You have tried. There have been entire seasons of your life where you wanted nothing more than to smile and go along and stop feeling everything so deeply. And every single time you tried, your body revolted. Your sleep broke down. Your spirit went quiet in a way that terrified you. That was not weakness. That was a system that was built to carry truth, rejecting everything that wasn't it. Deborah did not sit quietly while Israel drifted into oppression. She could not, because a carrier of truth does not have the luxury of comfortable silence. What is wrong demands to be named. What is broken demands to be addressed. Not out of anger, out of assignment. The third identity is the voice. You say the thing others feel but cannot find words for. Strangers open up to you in the first 10 minutes of a conversation. People tell you things they have never told anyone, not because you are a therapist. Because something in your presence gives people permission to stop pretending. That is not a personality trait. That is Paul, on the road to Damascus, completely redirected, completely reoriented, suddenly speaking words that broke chains in cities he had never visited. Your voice carries weight you have not yet fully released. The fourth identity is the stabilizer. When everything around you collapses into chaos, something inside you goes absolutely still. People misread that stillness as coldness. It is not coldness. It is the specific gravity of a soul that was built to be an anchor when every other anchor fails. The fifth identity is the pioneer. You go first. Into conversations nobody wants to start. Into seasons of transformation that have no map. And you do it alone. Most of the time, with no guarantee that anyone is following. That loneliness you have carried for years is not a wound. It is the geography of the front line. Someone has to go first. You were built for that position. And the sixth identity, the one that will hit you the deepest, is the intercessor of legacy. You are not just standing in the gap for yourself. You are standing in the gap for your children, your grandchildren, your bloodline, your community. Every prayer you have whispered in the dark was not only for your own breakthrough, it was covering generations that have not yet arrived. Today is not giving you a new personality. Today is giving you a recognized assignment. The hidden room is opening. The old oil is flowing again. The dormant instrument is being tuned. And now the question that cannot wait. If that is who you are, if even one of those identities landed in your chest like a key finding its lock, what can no longer remain silent inside you? What have you been holding back that was never yours to hold? Today is not merely changing your circumstances, it is clarifying your identity. And identity, once clarified, changes everything that comes after it. If one of those identities hit you hard, comment right now, "I know who I am becoming." Say it like you mean it, because you do. I need to say something to you right now that nobody in your life has had the courage to say. And I need you to hear it, not with your mind, with your chest. You are not stuck because the door hasn't opened. You are stuck because part of you is still in the old room. And today, April 4th, 2026, heaven is not asking you to try harder. Heaven is asking you to let something die. Not your faith, not your future, not your family. The version of you that keeps agreeing with the lie. You know the lie. You've been living inside it so long it stopped feeling like a lie and started feeling like wisdom. It sounds like this. It's too late for me. That season passed. I missed my window. Maybe this is just how my story ends. That is not discernment. That is not humility. That is a funeral you're holding for yourself while you're still breathing. And God did not bring you through everything you survived just to watch you bury yourself quietly in a life that was never your destination. Here is what today confronts, directly, honestly, without apology. It confronts your agreement with limitation, the silent nod you gave when someone spoke smallness over your life, and you didn't push back, not because you believed them, but because you were too tired to fight anymore. It confronts your false humility, the kind that looks like meekness but is actually fear wearing a spiritual disguise. You call it not wanting to seem proud, but heaven calls it self-erasure. And God never asked you to erase yourself. He asked you to surrender yourself. Those are not the same thing. It confronts your need to be understood. You have been waiting for the people around you to finally see what God placed inside you before they give you permission to walk in it. Chosen one, that permission is never coming, and waiting for it is not patience. It is procrastination dressed in prayer clothes. It confronts your attachment to who you used to be. The old version of your life felt familiar. It felt safe. Even when it was painful, at least the pain had a name. But that old room, that identity built on surviving instead of becoming it, is collapsing. Not because God is punishing you, because the new house is ready, and you cannot live in both. Remember Lazarus, 4 days in the tomb. The mourners had already moved on. Even Martha, who loved him, said, "Lord, by now there is a stench." Because when something has been dead long enough, the people closest to you stop expecting resurrection. But Jesus didn't ask for a committee vote. He didn't wait for consensus. He stood at the entrance of that tomb, and he spoke, "Come forth." And what came out of that tomb was not a ghost of the man who went in. It was Lazarus, alive, breathing, standing still, wrapped in burial cloths. And Jesus said something the church rarely slows down long enough to hear. He said, "Loose him and let him go. Chosen one, you have come forth." The resurrection already happened inside you, but you are still wearing the burial cloths, still wrapped in the identity of the person who suffered, who waited, who was overlooked, who almost didn't make it. Today, those cloths fall off. Not because you finally figured everything out, because heaven is done waiting for you to negotiate with your own freedom. Think of Israel standing at the Jordan River, 40 years in the wilderness. An entire generation defined by wandering, and the moment God said cross over it required them to leave the only identity they had ever known. The wilderness was painful, but it was familiar. And familiar pain is more comforting than unfamiliar promise. They crossed anyway. Peter left the boat anyway. Saul became Paul anyway, not after the fear disappeared, during it. And today, this day, you cross anyway. This is the confrontation heaven has been building toward in your life. Not a confrontation with your enemies. Not a confrontation with your circumstances. A confrontation with the version of you that kept asking permission to become who God already called. That is the greatest thing changing today. Not your bank account. Not your zip code. Not the people around you. The death of the you that negotiated with fear. The burial of the identity built on silence, on shrinking, on almost. The end of waiting as a lifestyle. The beginning of readiness as obedience. Bitterness, let it die today. Self-erasure, let it die today. The lie that your best days have already passed, let it die today. Dead expectations that were never God's promises to begin with, release them today. Because on the other side of that surrender is not emptiness. It is the you that heaven has been protecting until this exact moment. What lives on the other side of surrender? What happens when heaven finally sees you stop negotiating with fear? Stay with me. Because what comes next is the word that was written over your life before you had a name for it. If something in you is ready to let the old version die, right, no more delay. Let me tell you what nobody warns you about when God moves in your life. It's not the blessing that catches you off guard. It's the weight of becoming. Because after a day like this, after a threshold cracks open and something buried finally surfaces, you don't just feel different. You are different. And different is not always comfortable. Different costs something. Different requires you to stop performing the old version of yourself for people who only knew how to love that version. So let me show you exactly what changes after today. Your prayer changes first. Not the words, the posture. You stop negotiating with heaven like someone standing outside a closed door, knocking politely, hoping someone answers. You begin to pray the way Moses prayed after the burning bush, not as a beggar, but as someone who has seen the fire and knows the fire is real. Direct, steady, unashamed. Your prayer stops being a wish list and starts becoming a conversation between someone who knows who they are and the God who made them that way. Moses didn't argue his worthiness after the bush. He argued his assignment. That is where you are headed. Then your voice changes, not louder, weightier. People will stop mid-sentence when you speak. Not because you performed anything, because something in your tone carries a frequency that wasn't there before. Peter walked out of his restoration on the shore of Galilee, and within weeks his shadow was healing people in the streets. Not his strategy, his presence. That is what happens when a person stops hiding and starts walking in full commission. Your words will begin to land differently. In your family, in your church circle, in rooms full of confusion where everyone is looking for someone stable to follow. You will become that person, not because you volunteered, because you were built for it. Then your boundaries sharpen. And this is where some people in your life will push back. Let me be honest with you. Not everyone will celebrate this version of you. Some will call it a phase. Some will say, "You've changed," and they won't mean it as a compliment. Some will resist the new authority in your voice because the old you never required them to rise. The old you absorbed everything. The old you kept the peace by shrinking. But Paul, after Damascus, didn't shrink to make the synagogue comfortable. Joseph, after prison, didn't apologize for the authority God placed on him. Anna, after her recognition, didn't whisper her declaration. She proclaimed it to everyone who was waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. You are allowed to take up the space God designed for you. Here is what changes in your body. It's like walking out of surgery with a new rhythm. The old pace, the one driven by anxiety, by people-pleasing, by the exhausting performance of being fine, that rhythm breaks. A slower, steadier cadence takes its place. You begin to protect your peace the way you protect something expensive and irreplaceable, because you finally understand that your peace is not just yours, it is the atmosphere everyone around you breathes. When you are anchored, your grandchildren feel it, your children lean on it, your friends find steadiness in it without knowing why. You become a lamp in a dark hallway. Not a spotlight, not a stage. A lamp, quiet, consistent, illuminating exactly what needs to be seen, exactly when it needs to be seen. And the gifts come back. The ones you buried because nobody around you knew what to do with them. The discernment you dismissed as overthinking. The wisdom you swallowed because the room wasn't ready. The creativity, the teaching, the intercession, the vision, all of it begins to resurface, not as performance, as oil. Proverbs 18:16 says, "A man's gift makes room for him." Your gift was never gone. It was held in trust until you were ready to carry it without losing yourself in the applause. That time is now. So here is the question you must answer before this day closes. How do you steward a day like this, so it doesn't become just another emotional moment? Because that is the real danger. Not that you won't feel this. You feel it right now. The danger is that you will feel it, say Amen, and return to the same patterns by Thursday morning. And heaven will have spoken, and you will have nodded, and nothing will have changed. You do not honor a day like this by admiring it. You honor it by becoming accountable to what it revealed. Not perfect, accountable. There is a difference. Perfection performs, accountability carries. You were not brought to this moment to admire the view from the threshold. You were brought here to walk through. So walk. If you are ready to steward what God is stirring in you, not just feel it, but carry it forward with your whole life. Type, "I will carry this well." Because what begins today does not end when this video stops. It ends when your story does. And chosen one, your story is nowhere near finished. Stay with me, just a little longer. Because everything I have said today, every word, every truth, every moment that made your chest tighten or your eyes fill, it was all building to right here, this moment, this closing. This is where the weight finally lifts. Let me speak plainly before I speak prophetically. Your pain was not pointless. Every year, you spent wondering why things were not moving, why prayers felt like they dissolved before they reached the ceiling, why you kept showing up for a life that sometimes felt like it had forgotten to show up for you. None of that was wasted. Not one sleepless night. Not one silent tear. Not one morning you dragged yourself forward when everything in you wanted to stay down. The Bible says it plainly in Romans 8:28. All things, not some things, not the convenient things. All things work together for good to those who love God. All of it. The delay was not punishment. The silence was not abandonment. The heaviness you have been carrying, that pressure in your chest that no doctor could name and no vacation could fix, that was not only grief, that was threshold pressure. The weight of something enormous preparing to cross over into your life. And today, chosen one, something in you has crossed over. You did not come to the end of this message. You came to the beginning of your next assignment. Now I want to pray over you. Not a performance, not a formula, a real blessing, spoken directly over your life, your body, your name, your remaining years. Receive this. Father, I come before you on behalf of every chosen one who stayed until this moment. Every senior, every elder, every man and woman whose hair has gone gray in the service of others, whose hands bear the marks of decades of showing up, whose heart has been quietly breaking and quietly hoping at the same time. Bless their mind. Renew it. Where confusion has lived, let clarity move in like morning light through an opened window. Where regret has replayed itself 1,000 times, silence it now. Replace the loop of what could have been with the fire of what still is. Bless their body. Place iron in the spine of their soul. Where weariness has settled into their bones, let something ancient and strong rise up from the inside. Let them feel, even today, that they are not winding down, they are winding up. Bless their family line. What was broken in the generation before them, let it stop here. Let healing travel forward, not backward. Let their grandchildren inherit courage they never had to fight for because this chosen one fought for it first. Bless their voice. They have been quiet too long. They have swallowed too many words out of fear of being dismissed, fear of being too much. fear of speaking truth into rooms that were not ready to hear it. Loose their voice now. Let what they carry finally find its full sound. Bless their peace, not the fragile peace that depends on circumstances staying calm, the peace that passes understanding, the kind that stands in the middle of the storm and does not move. Bless their courage for what remains, because what remains is not scraps. What remains is the most refined, most seasoned, most dangerous to darkness version of them that has ever existed, and the enemy knows it. That is why the pressure has been so intense. That is why the opposition has felt so personal. He is not fighting who you were. He is terrified of who you are becoming. And now the final word. Receive it like a verdict being read over your life, because that is exactly what it is. From this day forward, you do not call yourself forgotten, you call yourself prepared. From this day forward, you do not call yourself old and finished, you call yourself seasoned and sent. From this day forward, you do not call this the end of your usefulness. You call it the beginning of your clearest assignment. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. He spoke that over people in exile, people who thought their best days were behind them, people who were tired, displaced, and wondering if God had moved on without them. He had not moved on. He never moves on, and he has not moved on from you. The sealed room of your destiny is opening to light. Right now, right here. On April 4th, 2026, the day you almost scrolled past, old bones are catching fire with purpose tonight. Your name is being called across every year you thought was wasted. Answer it. If this message spoke directly to your spirit, type, "Today changed me." If you are stepping forward into your next assignment, type, "I say yes." And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who feels forgotten, someone who is exhausted, someone whose spirit has gone quiet, don't wait. Send them this, right now, because this message may be the exact word their soul has been starving for. You are not finished, chosen one. You are finally, fully beginning.